Hey there. Welcome to the Literary Escape Podcast. I'm your host, Becky, and I'm glad you're here today. Today we're continuing our holiday season on the Literary Escapes podcast, and I've got an author for you who's going to share one of her books, one of her holiday books, so let's jump right in. Welcome back to the Literary Escapes podcast. I am excited today to have author Aedyn Brooks with me. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me, Becky. I appreciate this. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
I'm excited to be here.
I love meeting new authors and learning about their books. And there's so many books and authors that never enough time to read them all.
Nope.
Yeah, that's the curse of being a reader, is having that hugely extended TBR, isn't it?
Thank God for Kindle. Because if I had that many books by my bedside, we wouldn't be seeing my bedroom.
Exactly.
It's all on a Kindle. It's like,
you can kind of hide it.
Yeah. Actually, I saw that meme recently that Marie Kondo says if you have more than 20 books, and of course the guy's saying, "Shut up, go away."
Yeah.
It's like 20 books. Are you kidding me? How would someone limit themselves to 20 books?
Yeah. So 20 like in a genre? Or, yeah.
20 books total? No,
I don't see that working for me. No.
Nope.
So share a little bit about what kind of books you like to write.
I write pretty much that's on the darker side of paranormal romance. And I work with mostly angels, demons, and ghosts. And I base this off of what has happened in my life personally. So I grew up in a haunted house. I think I've always lived in somewhat of a haunted house. And it's just one of those things when you've had so many experiences with the supernatural, and it's such a part of my life that I thought, I just got to incorporate some of these stories into my books. And that's kind of what started me on this path of, because it is hard to find your genre. When I first started writing, I wrote historical romance because I'm a huge fan of history. I love history. I mean, if you hand me a historical novel, I'm pretty much going to read it. Fiction and nonfiction. I love history. So that kind of where I started, but it's really hard to write. And the readers are so voracious in this category. They know that genre better than most.
Yeah, and you have to be accurate.
Too accurate. And I mean, you thought you could sit down and pants this sucker, and then you realize, nope, can't do this pantaloon. Nope, can't do that corset. Nope, can't use that phrase. And when you start thinking about all the things that you can't do, you said, this is just so limiting. So I had one of my critique partners who had been studying my wonderful historical fiction and ripping it to shreds, said, why don't you try writing a contemporary? So I did it. And then she said, now you've found your voice.
Oh, that's cool.
I hear more, your real personality coming out. So, and that's really kind of what set me on this venture. And I thought, if I'm going to write contemporary, then I have to incorporate what I've lived with my whole life. So
that's awesome. I like that. And I think it's so interesting that you grew up in a haunted house, and I mean, so many people don't even believe in ghosts or any of that kind of stuff. And I guess you don't until you do, huh?
You don't until you've had an experience. And I think when you live in it, your whole life, and the first house I lived in whenever I first got married, it was extremely haunted.
Wow.
I swear someone opened a portal in that house, and it was a constant revolving door of ghosts walking through the house from day one. And it was, it was one of those things where it scared me for so long. And this is back in the day where used to have those Yahoo chat rooms. I don't know if you ever heard of those or ever did those.
Yeah.
I would go into the Yahoo chat room and hang out in the witches and pagan things. And that's where I actually met some people who taught me how not to be afraid and how to overcome the fear and how to protect myself. And that was eye-opening and like really changed my life like a 180. I finally realized that ghosts have no control over me. Where before, they touch me, they talk to me. I see them. So when it feels like you have no control over it and you realize, yes, you do, it was like a game changer for me.
Yeah, that's like a flip of a switch, I would think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. So important things to learn if you're going to live in a haunted house, I would think.
Well, and I didn't know. So as a kid, I lived in constant fear.
I can imagine.
It was horrifying, especially not understanding. And this thing was evil in the basement. Whatever lived in the
Wow.
basement, it was, I would say, more demonic.
Wow.
And when it went on rampages in our house, the cupboards would all open, things would come flying out of the cupboards, and you're sitting there at the breakfast table thinking, you're making work for me, buddy. I'm gonna have to clean all this up. Knock it off. I sit
Dang
there
it.
just, mostly just scared and, just want to run out of the house and never come back, but that wasn't a choice.
Right. Phew.
Yeah. And so, and it was interesting that when you have kids and you live in a haunted house and how to teach them not to be afraid, because that was mostly my goal, is teaching them, if you see spirits and hear spirits, it's nothing bad.
Right.
They were once people too, kind of thing, they're just there. And my daughter was adamant that ghosts don't exist. And my favorite story with her is we had a ghost that lived in the attic of our garage, and the freezer was out in the garage. And I'd say, go out to the freezer and get whatever for school for the next day. And she would go out and turn on the light, and the ghost would always turn it off. But if you asked them nicely, please turn the lights back on, they always did. But my daughter, being very practical minded, she's Taurus, stubborn to the wall, she said, I'm not going to tell them to turn it back on. They should have never turned it off in the first place. How stupid can they get? She was a nice 11-year-old in that
right
attitude of she knows everything. I was getting dumber by the day. And I finally said to her, you need to apologize. So every time she walked out, got halfway across the garage, the lights would go off, and they never came back on for her ever again. Or my boys learned, hey, can you turn back on the lights? They always came back on. They learned, but she refused to give in. So, teaching them that kind of thing, it's just, you just have to learn to work with them, and they will listen. That was kind of the fun parts of being a mom in a supernatural house.
That is so crazy. Yeah. How funny. So one of the things that I had wanted to ask you about is a favorite holiday memory or tradition.
Oh gosh, and this one I'm just passing it on to parents. I was a single mom. I divorced when my kids were really, really young. And I think we all go through this as kids, when you're looking under the Christmas tree and you count how many presents are yours and you shake them, the Legos box, dead giveaway. Got a box of Legos, I'll open that last, I know what's in it, kind of thing. And so I finally decided one year, I got tired, because when your oldest can read and inform the younger ones can't, it's all over. You got 5 presents, you got 6, I have 10. It was always something. It was one of those things where I told my kids, I set a budget for each of you. And what I buy with that money is what you get.
Yeah.
You might get one thing you really want, but you might get 10 little things. So it isn't it is
quantity.
The quantity, it was the budget and what I could afford. And they got it, but it's still, the salt goes in the wound, but they can't get those presents. And so one year I decided I'm not going to put their names on the presents. I'm going to put the reindeer, like the Santa's reindeer. So someone was Dancer, and someone was Prancer, someone was Vixen, and my sons were always the female ones because I wanted to throw it off again. The Legos got their own name.
Okay.
Because that was a dead giveaway. Picking up, the Lego box, shaking it and saying, oh, I'm such and such. So it was always a different name. And if family games or movies or whatever, they also had a separate name.
Oh, funny.
Because once you're done, we do it in our house where the youngest always goes first. They open their gift. Everyone waits. It's not a free for all. The first person opens the gift, and we get to all say thank you. Oh, that's really cool. Take it out of the box. It's a really long day, but we don't care. It's what we're doing that day.
That's what the day's all about. Yeah.
We never had relatives that live nearby, so we didn't have to rush anywhere. I feel sorry for those people who have to try to do 4 Christmases just on Christmas.
Agreed.
My heart really goes out to those people a lot.
It's got to be a lot of work.
It is. I can't imagine personally. I just can't. But so my kids would, open it and then go around. We just went from youngest to the oldest. And then if you ran out of presents, you got your stocking. And after your stocking, you got to open the family gifts.
Okay.
So, then you would open the family games. We did movies. And our Christmases were a all-day jammy party. We wore jammies all day. There was no dressing up. There was, we got dinner. Sometimes I did the turkey, sometimes I didn't, but
Yeah.
it didn't matter. It was just a totally relaxing day, which is like the polar opposite of what I grew up with. So it was like,
Yeah.
if you remember your mom ever having to be the one to host every holiday event, my mother was like stress on steroids. And it's like, and she was like walking on eggshells because it had to be perfect. If it wasn't perfect, she didn't want to do it. So
that's a hard way to go.
So for me, it was like, I am not doing that. My kids are going to know it is jammy day and we are relaxing the entire day.
That's awesome. I
No
love
pressure. That way you got to open your toys, play with the toys, build the Legos. And I was one of those people who had a brain injury when I was 9 years old. And I have like zero kinetic learning ability. I'm like an audio visual learner, but I have zero kinetic learning. I can't put together puzzles. I couldn't Legos. I started Legos with a glass of wine and Advil because I knew if I had to sit down and read that diagram and pick out the pieces and put it together, we were in trouble.
Okay.
And so my boys always said, "Mom, come help me." It was like they had no idea what they were asking me.
Right. Wow.
It was not going to happen, kids.
Yeah, so I love you, bud.
I said, here's my glass of wine. Sure, I'm with you, bud.
I'll hold the directions up for you.
And those little minds, how fast they work. Click, 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 and they get fixed. I always bought them like the big, Star Wars things, the 50 million pieces. And they just, it had no trouble. Just, this is this piece, and this goes here, and this goes there. And I would inevitably put it on the wrong hole. Where it's like to be on the second one, I put it on the first, and then when the match.
Right, yeah.
And my son would just reach over and just pat my hand and say, "You're good for a beginner, Mom. It's okay."
That's very sweet.
That's
very sweet.
Very sweet of my son to do that. I was like, I'm with you, bud, but
that's
anyway.
So funny.
Those are my tips. If your kids are counting presents and that kind of thing, you can always change it. So one year we were cars, one year we did Harry Potter characters, and as things would happen in society or whatever, we would just incorporate that. And one thing I really wish I would have done is kept the list through the years, and I never did. I just
that would have been fun.
Yeah, my daughter said that too. She said that would have been nice to look back at. And now my older two are married, and now we have the grandkids, and so I don't really do that anymore. And the first year I didn't do was after my daughter got married, and I said, yeah, it was a fun thing to do when we were a family. But now that we're kind of getting bigger, you guys are older, you can handle how many presents are under the tree. You're a little more mature now.
Yeah, you'd like to hope, yeah.
But they really love that tradition. And I said, well, when your kids get older and they start to read, my oldest child is 3, and she knows what an L looks like. She can read her name. So she would know already at that point, what the presents are hers. So said, just start the new tradition. You know what to do with your kids when that happens. Fun. So,
that's a lot of fun.
I think it's a fun thing to do. And come Christmas morning, everyone's dying to know who they are.
Exactly. What a fun thing to do. I love that. That's a fun one. So what book have you got of yours that you're going to share with us today?
The book that actually is on Kindle Unlimited, it's a Ghosts of Spritz's Past.
Spritz's as in the cookies, right?
As in the cookie.
I like it.
Wild Rose Press did a call for manuscripts for books involving cookie names. And I thought, I've never submitted to Wild Rose Press, but I really love Rhonda Pender. I love the model of their company. They're very responsive to authors. And I have a lot of friends who were terrified to self-publish. And I said, well, if you fit within the guidelines of Wild Rose Press, you should submit to them. They're really good. I mean, Entangled's really good. Evernight Publishing. And there's a lot of companies out there smaller presses that I would recommend if you are terrified to take that big leap on your own. It's a big expense, right? So I decided I would write a book just for them. They would not touch my material, other material I write with a 10-foot pole. So I thought, I could do this. So I went ahead and submitted something. It got lost in the email. And the other thing, I had written it with one comment about COVID, and they said they will not publish COVID books at all. They
Okay.
said they wanted to suspend that belief in their readership. And I said, okay, I can take that out. It's one sentence. Who cares?
Yeah.
No loss to me. But when I resubmitted it, it got lost in the mail. So I wrote them back a few months later and said, hey, I haven't heard. Did my manuscript make the cut or not? If you're not going to publish it, I'll publish it myself. And they said, oh, we never got it. And I said, oh, no problem. I'll publish it myself. Say no more. I get it. Life happens,
Yeah.
hard feelings. So I went ahead and published this one myself and went through my own editor to spruce it up. But it's basically this young gal who whose grandmother gives her in her will, the family spritzes recipe. It's one of those family recipes you never share with anyone. And she was going to be the one who got the recipe. But instead of just giving her the recipe, she gave the recipe to 3 men that she had dated in her past. So she has to go and date these men again to get that portion of the recipe to find out, of course, the hero of the book is the final one, the future ghost of Christmas, the future. So.
Okay. So there's a ghost past, a ghost of the present, and how clever! I love that.
So it's kind of where they have it's kind of a little different twist, but it's something I've always made every year. And I thought, oh wow, I like that idea. And the grandmother, kind of being a witch, had it in her grimoire, the actual recipe. The recipe she gives to the guys isn't the true recipe. But it's written in the Ogham alphabet. So it's really interesting how she gets the grimoire, and that's the final one of course, the hero of the future has the grandmother's grimoire, and they go through this as all her memories. So it's like a trip down memory lane of all the things her grandmother did. And it was this cookie recipe that won her grandfather's heart. And so it's all these wonderful memories. And then she says, but the recipe is not here. And it's the hero who points out it is here. It's just written on the edges of the pages.
Oh.
In the Ogham alphabet, which is like the Viking alphabet of just lines with a straight line with lines, how they cross across.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
So if you don't know it, you don't know it.
You don't know it, yeah.
But it really is, I wanted to do this. I wanted to write in conjunction with a lot of paranormal books. You come across a lot of witches. And I thought I wanted to write a witch series, but I didn't want it to be a super overly magical, I wave my hand, the door shuts.
Right.
Which to me is, I'm sorry, I'm such a realist. I was a data analyst for years.
Oh, yeah.
For HR. So it was like, oh my gosh, I wanted it to be realistic. So I went and studied witchcraft, and I met with covens and met with witches and started learning it really is all about intent, and it's a lifestyle. It's not a religion. And it was very eye-opening. Wicca is a religion, and there are a lot of witches that are Wiccan, but witchcraft is actually the study of nature. And it was very eye-opening for me, and understanding a lot of it's around the cycles of the moon. And I thought, wow, that's not what I was expecting at all when I started down this journey. And I thought, okay, but I really learned so much from the people that I met and how they incorporate witchcraft into their own lives. Okay. And I thought it was very enlightening. It was a great journey to go on and learn from some of the best, and then some of the people who just, are closet witches. And it's nice to see that so much of what is incorporated in our society today was all based in witchcraft years ago.
How interesting.
A lot of making bone broth and all those things are all based out of how they did it hundreds of years ago. And that's really what I found a lot of like kitchen witches and that kind of thing base it on. And I thought it was very enlightening. So when I went to go write my Witches of Whitman book, I do put more of the twin flame or soul flame candle rituals, the other kind of rituals that are in there. But I didn't really go overboard on that, and I don't do any of the magical things that I think the genre typically expects. But I think I'm gonna have to change that going into this was just a teaser.
A teaser, yeah. So in this one, the grandmother is the witch, is that?
The grandmother's the witch, and so is the son. The mother's Catholic. So
Okay.
the son, her dad, the main character's dad, gave up his witchcraft to marry him and her mother. Because there's no way the Catholic family would allow a witch dare in the
Right.
family. So
Yeah.
he pretty much set it aside. And he said, and you kind of find out through the book, later on in the book, that dad said, I've always been a witch, but we don't talk
Yeah.
about it around mom. And you kind of realize that different religions can come together and love each other and have these great relationships, but there has to be a compromise somewhere, right?
Right.
And a lot of people can relate to that we do come from polar opposites. And so that's really, Julian is this person that learns what is witchcraft and what does that mean to other people. And so it's kind of how I didn't want to make it scary or anything. Some people hear the word witchcraft and they're like totally turned off.
Yeah, there's lots of
It's the devil talking.
thoughts going out there. Yeah.
So there's and Hollywood doesn't help, just like it doesn't with crime drama. It kind of they mess up all the procedurals that are right across the reader. You can't count on CSI. So that's kind of the same with witchcraft. So it's really it's very fascinating, and it was just a nice journey to learn a different aspect of society that has been there for hundreds of years, and in different parts of the country is more open to it than other parts of the country.
That would make sense. Yeah.
So this of course takes all my books but the first one is based out of Whitman, Washington, which isn't a real town, but it's based basically in Western Washington, where Issaquah and North Bend are. They're kind of in that hilly area right before Columbia Pass. So that's where my books are based, in this small town that has a ton of Victorian houses like Port Townsend. And so it's just a beautiful old town, but a lot of the history is in these old Victorian homes. And that's where a lot of the books take place.
Very cool.
Victorian homes. So
okay. And so as the series progresses, is it just about this same main character, or are there different characters for each
I'm
book?
one of those people. All my books are standalone books. You don't need to read the whole series to get it. My books also have repeat characters.
I love that.
The first series of the Grave Intention series, all of these characters all come together. So it's the first couple meets the second couple, then they meet the third person, and they kind of bring this all along. And so and then I decided with this Witches of Whitman series, they still bleed over into this new series.
Okay.
Because the first series is based on psychics and psychic mediums and a Nephilim, which is half angel, half human character, that they're the ones that kind of defeat the bad guys in a paranormal way.
So the characters from your other series are in this one too?
Yes.
Oh, I love that. Oh, your readers are going to love that.
You learn in the second book that the Vatican has hired them to start looking for people.
Ooh.
And it's the Vatican kind of orchestrating this whole thing. And so the next series after this, which is a Whitman one, there's a character that's in all of them. He's the tech guy. He's going to get his own spinoff series.
Ooh, fun.
And again, it's going to be the Vatican and the government working together. And it's mostly around aliens and places and things. So yeah, we're going to go way out there.
You're going to have some fun stuff coming up. I love that.
Way
nice. So the second book in the Witches of Wickham?
Oh, it's Whitman.
Okay.
Witches of Whitman series.
Whitman. Okay, sorry.
Actually, I've written it. I got it back from the editor. Decided I'm going to write all 3 books, and then if I release them, we'll release them in short succession. Mainly because in my books I have 2 villains. I have a human villain and a paranormal one. Ooh. And mostly in the Witches of Whitman one, there's one common specter through all 3 books.
Okay.
In the first book, she appears as a ghost. The second one, she embodies water and possesses people. And the third book is when we have to kill her off.
Yeah. So what is your favorite holiday book to read?
For me, the one book that I know I've read over and over and over again is Mrs. Miracle by Debbie Macomber. It's just such a heartwarming,
I love that book.
Story. And it's good for anyone. I mean, doesn't matter what genre you love. It's such a good, heartwarming story.
It really is.
The other things that I would love doing at Christmas, especially at Christmas, you see so many of them, is the anthologies that come out to benefit St. Jude's Hospital or diabetes research. And so I have a lot of those that I've read, like Christmas at Mistletoe Lodge I read. Shifters and Mistletoe came out last year, had
Oh,
a
fun.
lot of New York Times best-selling and novels. And I like reading shifter books if they're done well, but because it's just such a different thing
Yeah.
than I write. So I like, oh wow. And then one of the writers in that particular series really, in that quick anthology, really did so much world building around the pack life. I enjoyed that little book more than I had ever enjoyed all the others that had just your common knowledge, what's expected in the genre. But I mean, she
Mm-hmm.
really built up how you take care of the cubs, how you do this, how you do that. And it's like, wow, she really put a lot of thought into this. I really did love that. And I
No
just
kidding.
purchased Let's Get Naughty, book 1.
All right.
And when you hear a book 1, you know more naughty's coming. So I thought, you know what, I like that. It has 37 different authors. I
Fun.
only know of one of them.
Okay.
So to
So
me, it's like,
I love how
wow,
that just opens you up to a whole new group of
yes,
people. So yeah.
exactly. So I
So
mean, they're not big reads, they're usually really short. But if you like that writer's style or the
yeah,
way they portrayed their characters, it's like you might find a new for you author. So I thought, hey,
I
for
love that.
37 authors, and I'm down, I'm right, I'm gonna buy that. 99 cents, you can't go wrong.
Can't beat that.
know?
Yeah. That's awesome.
And I just might find a new to me author that I love. So I thought, I'm doing
There's a
it.
good
So
chance at it. Yeah. That's
that
awesome.
really is
Um, I was at Disney yesterday and
fun.
that title, Let's Get Naughty, made me think of this. We saw a guy with a t-shirt on that said naughty is the new nice. So it made me think about that. I'm like, I really enjoy that t-shirt. That's really funny.
That is funny. Oh, that's good. Don't you love when people can entertain you just by their shirt?
Oh, totally. Yeah, totally. So where can people connect with you, Aedyn?
They can connect with me on Facebook. I have my own, I have my Haunted Apothecary, Aedyn Brooks Haunted Apothecary. That's my readers group on
Fun.
Facebook. I'm also on Instagram, and I also have my own website. And I always include the first chapter on my websites. So
Oh,
it's
fun.
aedynbrooks.com, and under the
Okay.
book section are all my books, and the first chapter's there. If you like those ghosty paranormal kind of stories and you want to see if you like my writing style, go out to my website, read
Head
that
to the
first
website.
chapter. You can always go and buy it if you like. If you want to know, and if you sign up for my newsletter, you get the deleted chapter of my first
Ooh.
book. Not for everyone, but if you like that wild side of the
Mhm.
paranormal, I'm your gal.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I will link to your website, your Instagram, and your Facebook group in my
Okay.
show notes. Well, thank you so much for joining me
Thank
today.
you.
I really enjoyed chatting with you.
I enjoyed it as well. I hope you have a great, happy holiday and
Thank you.
holidays and a beautiful and blessed 2023.
Thanks for joining me today on the Literary Escapes podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode and maybe would like some more Literary Escape book recommendations, then come check out the Literary Escape Society. We're a community of travelers who love books, or maybe book lovers who love to travel. Either way, if you need an escape, a literary escape, come join us as we read our way around the world together, one book at a time. Check out the show notes to learn more about the Literary Escape Society. And we'll see you next time on the next episode.